Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's always so nice to have you here. Today's story is about Hercules, or technically Heracles, which was his original Greek name before the Romans changed it. He was also part of a much larger family of Greek heroes. According to mythology, Hercules was actually a descendant of Perseus, the hero who killed Medusa, although that's a story for another time. Hercules was the son of Zeus and the mortal princess Alcmene, which immediately made him a target for the goddess Hera, Zeus's wife. In fact, the name Heracles roughly means glory of Hera, which is almost ironic considering how much she hated him. According to the myths, Hera tried to ruin his life from the very beginning. One famous story says she sent serpents into his crib while he was still a baby. Instead of crying or panicking, Hercules strangled the snakes with his bare hands. As he grew older, stories about his strength spread across Greece. But so did stories about his temper. Greek heroes were never written as perfect role models. They were powerful, emotional, prideful, and sometimes destructive. And Hercules may have been the most dangerous of them all. Eventually, Hera drives him into a state of madness. During that madness, Hercules kills his own wife and children. After recovering, horrified by what he had done, Hercules travels to the Oracle of Delphi for guidance. There, he is told he must serve King Eurystheus and complete a series of nearly impossible tasks as punishment. These became known as the 12 Labors of Hercules. And while the story is filled with monsters, giant beasts, and mythological creatures, it's also about guilt, endurance, and trying to survive the consequences of your own actions. So tonight, let's walk through the world of ancient Greek mythology and the 12 labors that turned Hercules into a legend. Before we begin, feel free to leave a comment and let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. It's always fascinating to see your stories too. And if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel and lets me keep making more deep sleep stories like this. Alright, let's begin. Hercules' first labor was to kill the Nemean Lion, a monstrous beast that had been terrorizing the hills of Nemea for years. According to the stories, the lion could not be killed by ordinary weapons. Arrows shattered against its hide, spears snapped harmlessly away, and entire groups of hunters had already disappeared trying to destroy it. The task was given to Hercules by King Eurystheus, the ruler he had been forced to serve after the terrible madness that destroyed his family. Each labor was meant to be impossible, and many believed the king hoped Hercules would never return at all. The wind moved softly through the forests as the last light disappeared behind the mountains. Far below, small villages were already closing their doors for the night. People in the region lived in constant fear of the lion. Travelers no longer used the nearby roads. Hunters avoided the forests completely. Some villagers even claimed they could hear the creature roaring in the darkness after sunset. As Hercules climbed higher into the hills, the air became colder. Moonlight spread across the rocky cliffs and olive trees. Somewhere ahead, hidden within the mountains, the beast was waiting. Eventually, Hercules arrived at a small village near the edge of the forest. The people watched him nervously from their homes. An old shepherd warned him not to continue after dark. He spoke of bones scattered near caves and glowing eyes moving through the trees at night. But Hercules thanked the man and continued onward alone. Hours later, he finally found the lion's cave hidden deep among the cliffs. There was something strange about it. The cave had 2 entrances. If danger entered from one side, the lion could easily escape through the other. Carefully, Hercules rolled enormous stones across one entrance until it was completely sealed. Dust rose into the cold night air. Then, gripping his club tightly, he stepped into the darkness. The cave smelled of damp stone and animal fur. Water dripped slowly somewhere deep inside. Then came a sound, a low growl that echoed through the cavern walls, and slowly, from the shadows, the lion appeared. Its body was enormous. Its eyes reflected gold in the darkness as it moved closer with slow, heavy steps. For a moment, neither moved. Then Hercules attacked. He fired arrows first, but the stories were true. The arrows struck the lion's hide and fell harmlessly to the ground. The beast roared so loudly the entire cave seemed to shake. Then it charged. Hercules swung his club with all his strength. Stone cracked. Dust filled the air, but nothing seemed capable of stopping the creature. And slowly Hercules realized the terrible truth. No weapon could kill the lion. So finally, he dropped them entirely. When the beast lunged again, Hercules wrapped his arms around it with all his strength. The struggle became violent and desperate inside the narrow cave. The lion clawed against the stone floor. Its roar thundered through the darkness, but Hercules held tighter and tighter until eventually, the creature collapsed beneath him. Silence returned to the hills of Nemea. For the first time in years, the villagers below would sleep peacefully again. Later, Hercules used the lion's own claws to remove its invulnerable skin. He wore the lion's hide afterward as armor, carrying the memory of his first labor wherever he traveled. Hercules' second labor was to defeat the Lernaean Hydra, a terrifying serpent-like creature that lived deep within the swamps of Lerna. Unlike the Nemean Lion, the Hydra was not feared for its strength alone. It was feared because it seemed impossible to destroy. The creature possessed many long serpent heads, and according to the stories, whenever one head was cut off, 2 more would grow back in its place. Its breath was poisonous. Its blood was deadly. Even the air surrounding its swamp was said to make travelers sick. King Eurystheus assigned the task, hoping Hercules would finally fail. After all, many believed no mortal could survive the Hydra's cursed domain. So Hercules traveled south toward the dark marshes of Lerna. As he approached the region, the landscape slowly changed. The dry hills of Greece gave way to black water, twisted trees, and thick drifting mist. The swamp was strangely quiet. No birds sang there, no insects buzzed in the reeds, only the sound of water moving slowly beneath the fog. Ancient Greeks believed Lerna was one of the entrances to the Underworld itself, and standing alone beside the edge of the swamp, Hercules could almost believe the stories. The moon hung pale above the marshes as he moved deeper into the reeds. Cold mud pulled at his sandals. The smell of damp earth and stagnant water filled the air. Then, somewhere ahead in the darkness, something moved. At first, Hercules saw only glowing eyes appearing through the fog. Then came the sound, a low hissing echoing across the swamp, and slowly, the Hydra emerged. Its enormous serpent bodies twisted together like living shadows. Multiple heads rose high above the black water, swaying silently beneath the moonlight. Some stories claimed the creature had 9 heads. Others claimed far more. But all agreed on one thing. The Hydra was ancient and deadly. Hercules raised his sword and charged forward. The swamp exploded into chaos. The Hydra struck with terrifying speed, its heads lunging from every direction. Hercules fought back with powerful swings of his blade, cutting through one serpent neck after another. But almost immediately, something horrifying happened. Where one head fell, 2 more grew in its place. Again and again Hercules struck the creature, only for the Hydra to become even larger. The swamp filled with hissing and twisting shadows. poisonous breath spread through the air. And slowly Hercules realized brute strength alone would not defeat the monster. Fortunately, Hercules had not traveled entirely alone. His nephew Iolaus had accompanied him to Lerna, and together they formed a new plan. Each time Hercules cut off one of the Hydra's heads, Iolaus used a burning torch to seal the wound before new heads could grow back. Fire and steel together slowly began weakening the creature. One by one, the serpent heads finally stopped returning. The battle lasted deep into the night. Smoke drifted across the swamp. Steam rose from the burning wounds of the monster. And at last, only one head remained. According to the myth, this final head was immortal, impossible to kill completely, so Hercules severed it and buried it beneath a massive stone deep within the marshes of Lerna. The swamp slowly became quiet again. Mist drifted silently across the black water, and for the first time in many years, the people living near Lerna no longer feared what waited beneath the fog. Before leaving, Hercules dipped his arrows into the Hydra's poisonous blood. From that moment forward, the arrows carried the creature's deadly venom, a weapon taken from the monster itself. Then, beneath the fading moonlight, Hercules left the swamps behind. The second labor was complete, but far beyond the marshes of Lerna, many more still waited. Hercules' third labor was to capture the Golden Hind, a sacred creature said to belong to the goddess Artemis herself. Unlike the monsters he had faced before, the hind was not violent or destructive. It did not terrorize villages. It did not hunt travelers through the forests. In fact, many Greeks believed the creature was something divine. The Golden Hind was described as a beautiful deer with golden antlers and bronze hooves, able to run faster than an arrow in flight. Some stories claimed it could cross entire rivers without leaving a ripple behind. Others said it moved so lightly through the forests that even falling leaves made more sound than its footsteps. But despite its beauty, capturing the creature was considered nearly impossible, and King Eurystheus knew it. The king ordered Hercules to bring the hind back alive, not wounded, not killed, alive. It was another task designed to fail. So Hercules traveled north into the forests and mountains of ancient Greece, searching for the sacred animal. As the days passed, the landscape slowly changed around him. The air became colder. Tall pine trees covered the hillsides. Moonlight drifted through silver branches at night, while mist rolled quietly between the rocks and valleys. The forests felt ancient, still, almost untouched by ordinary humans. And somewhere within that wilderness, the Golden Hind moved silently beneath the trees. According to the myths, Hercules searched for the creature for nearly an entire year. Through changing seasons, across rivers and mountains, he followed faint tracks deeper into the wilderness. Sometimes he glimpsed the hind briefly in the distance, a flash of gold between the trees, the sound of hooves vanishing into the mist. But each time he approached, the creature disappeared again like a dream. Unlike his earlier labors, this was not a battle of strength. It became a test of patience, endurance, and restraint. Night after night, Hercules wandered beneath the moonlight, moving quietly through forests filled with cold wind and drifting fog. Eventually, after many months of pursuit, Hercules finally found the hind resting beside a quiet stream beneath the early morning sky. The creature stood peacefully among the trees, its golden antlers glowing faintly in the pale light of dawn. For a moment, Hercules simply watched it. The forest was completely silent. Then carefully, slowly, he stepped forward. The hind leapt away immediately, racing through the woods with impossible speed. But this time, Hercules stayed close behind. Across rivers and rocky hills they ran together until finally, as the creature paused near the edge of a mountain path, Hercules managed to trap it gently within a net. The hind struggled only briefly before becoming still. Even then, Hercules was careful not to harm it, because he knew the animal belonged to Artemis, goddess of the hunt and wild forests, and angering the gods was often more dangerous than facing monsters. Some versions of the myth say Artemis herself appeared before Hercules afterward, demanding to know why he had captured her sacred creature. But after hearing about his punishment and the labors forced upon him, the goddess allowed him to continue, as long as the hind was eventually returned safely. And so Hercules carried the Golden Hind back across Greece toward King Eurystheus. The third labor was complete, not through violence or strength alone, but through patience, persistence, and respect for something sacred. Hercules' fourth labor was to capture the Erymanthian Boar, a massive wild creature that terrorized the snowy mountains of Erymanthus. Unlike the Nemean Lion or the Hydra, the boar was not immortal or poisonous, but it was unbelievably powerful. The beast charged through villages without fear, destroying farms, uprooting trees, and scattering entire groups of hunters whenever it appeared from the forests. Its enormous tusks were said to tear through shields like thin wood, and in the freezing mountain regions where it roamed, few people dared to hunt it. King Eurystheus ordered Hercules not to kill the creature, but to capture it alive, another nearly impossible task. So Hercules traveled north toward the cold mountains of Erymanthus, where winter storms covered the forests in snow, and thick fog drifted through the valleys. The journey itself was difficult. Steep cliffs rose above narrow mountain paths. Ice covered the rocks beneath his feet, and cold winds howled through the pine trees day and night. As Hercules climbed higher into the mountains, the world around him became quieter. Snow absorbed almost every sound. The forests felt ancient and empty beneath the pale winter sky. Somewhere ahead, hidden among the frozen hills, the great boar was waiting. According to the myths, Hercules spent days tracking the creature through the mountains. He followed enormous hoofprints pressed deep into the snow. Broken trees marked the beast's path through the forests. Occasionally, distant roars echoed through the valleys like thunder. Then finally, during the early hours of a freezing morning, Hercules found it. The Erymanthian boar emerged from the mist between the trees like a living shadow. Its body was enormous, covered in thick, dark fur dusted with snow. Steam rose from its mouth as it breathed into the cold air, and its tusks curved outward like sharpened ivory blades. For a moment, the creature stared directly at Hercules. Then it charged. The mountain shook beneath its weight. Snow exploded into the air as Hercules leapt aside just before the boar crashed through a line of small trees behind him. Unlike the Hydra, this battle was not fought in darkness or poison. It became a struggle against pure force. Again and again the boar charged through the snow-covered forests, while Hercules pursued it across the mountains. But slowly, Hercules realized something important. The deeper the boar ran into the mountains, the heavier the snow became. So instead of fighting the creature directly, Hercules drove it higher and higher toward the deep drifts near the mountain peaks. The freezing wind howled around them. Snow swirled through the air. And finally, exhausted and slowed by the deep snow, the boar became trapped. That was when Hercules moved forward. Using all his strength, he wrestled the massive creature into submission and bound it with heavy chains. Then, according to the stories, Hercules carried the enormous boar all the way back to King Eurystheus. The sight terrified the king so badly that some myths claim he hid inside a giant storage jar when Hercules arrived. And honestly, Considering the size of the creature, it's not difficult to understand why. At last, Hercules released the boar back into the wild mountains, where it disappeared once more into the forests of Greece. The fourth labor was complete, and still, many more trials waited ahead for him beyond the snowy peaks of Erymanthus. Hercules' fifth labor was unlike any task he had faced before. There was no giant monster waiting in the darkness, no serpent rising from poisoned swamps, no sacred creature hidden deep within enchanted forests. Instead, King Eurystheus gave Hercules a task that sounded almost humiliating. He ordered him to clean the Augean Stables. At first, the labor seemed strangely simple, but the stables of King Augeas were enormous, housing thousands of cattle across vast fields and stone buildings. And according to the myths, they had not been cleaned for many years. The filth had piled endlessly across the land, poisoning the nearby air and rivers. The task was impossible not because it required strength, but because it seemed beneath a hero entirely. Many believe Eurystheus chose the labor specifically to mock Hercules. After all, what glory could possibly come from cleaning stables? Still, Hercules obeyed. He travelled across Greece toward the kingdom of Elis, where King Augeas ruled over rich farmland and countless herds of cattle. As Hercules approached the region, he quickly understood why the labor had become so infamous. The smell alone carried across the countryside. Fields near the stables had become dark and polluted. Water nearby barely moved beneath layers of waste and mud. And towering stone walls surrounded enormous structures packed with livestock. Even Hercules paused for a moment when he first saw them. The task seemed endless. But unlike many kings in Greek mythology, Augeas himself did not believe Hercules could succeed. Some stories say the king even laughed when he heard about the labor. Others claim Augeas promised Hercules a reward if he somehow managed to finish the work in a single day, because no ordinary person possibly could. But Hercules was already studying the land around the stables carefully, and soon he noticed something important. Nearby, two powerful rivers flowed down from the mountains, fast, cold, relentless, and instead of attempting to remove the filth by hand, Hercules formed a different plan entirely. Using his enormous strength, he broke apart sections of stone and earth near the rivers. Then he redirected the rushing water directly toward the stables. At first, nothing happened. Then slowly, the water burst through the walls like a flood. Mud and debris surged across the fields. The rivers thundered through the stables with unstoppable force, washing away years of filth in only a few hours. Ancient Greeks often viewed rivers as symbols of cleansing and divine power. And standing beside the rushing water beneath the storm-dark sky, Hercules must have seemed less like a man, and more like part of nature itself. By sunset, the impossible labor was complete. The fields were clean again, fresh water flowed through the land, and the air itself no longer carried the heavy smell that had covered the region for years. But the story did not end peacefully. According to some myths, King Augeas refused to honor the reward he had promised Hercules. Others say Eurystheus himself refused to count the labor properly because Hercules had used the rivers instead of completing the work entirely by hand. And so, despite accomplishing the impossible once again, Hercules received little gratitude for what he had done. Still, the fifth labor was complete, and somewhere beyond the rivers and valleys of Greece, more trials were already waiting for him. Hercules' sixth labor was to drive away the Stymphalian Birds, a terrifying flock of creatures that haunted the marshes near Lake Stymphalia. Unlike ordinary birds, these creatures were said to possess sharp metallic feathers, bronze beaks, and claws strong enough to tear through armor. Some stories claimed they could launch their feathers like arrows. Others said they darkened the sky in such great numbers that entire villages beneath the marshes lived in constant fear. The birds gathered deep within the swamps and forests surrounding the lake, where thick reeds and dark water made travel nearly impossible. Few hunters dared to enter the region, and those who did often never returned. As always, King Eurystheus assigned the task, hoping Hercules would fail once again. The marshlands of Stymphalia were dangerous enough on their own, but fighting an entire sky filled with deadly creatures seemed almost impossible. So Hercules traveled toward the lake beneath cold grey skies and heavy mountain winds. As he approached the marshes, the landscape became quiet and strangely still. Dark water stretched between tall reeds. Mist drifted slowly above the surface of the lake, and somewhere high above the fog, wings moved through the clouds. The birds were difficult to see at first. They remained hidden among the cliffs and trees surrounding the swamp. But occasionally, Hercules caught glimpses of them circling overhead like shadows against the pale sky. Their cries echoed across the marshes, sharp, metallic sounds, unlike any ordinary bird. When Hercules attempted to move deeper into the swamp, the ground beneath him became soft and unstable. Mud pulled at his feet. Water filled the narrow paths between the reeds, and every movement sent ripples through the dark lake. It quickly became clear that fighting the birds directly inside the marsh would be nearly impossible. There were simply too many of them. According to the myths, the goddess Athena eventually came to Hercules with advice. She gave him a pair of bronze rattles said to have been crafted by the god Hephaestus himself. The sound they created was loud, unnatural, and powerful enough to frighten the birds from their hiding places. Standing among the reeds beside the lake, Hercules raised the rattles and shook them loudly into the cold air. The sound echoed across the marshes like thunder, and suddenly, the sky exploded with movement. Hundreds of dark wings burst upward from the trees and cliffs surrounding the lake. The Stymphalian birds filled the air above him in a swirling storm of feathers and shadows. Some dove downward immediately, launching razor-sharp feathers toward the ground below. Others circled overhead, screaming into the wind. But now, finally, Hercules could fight them properly. He raised his bow and fired arrow after arrow into the sky. Birds fell into the marshes around him while the remaining flock scattered wildly above the lake. The battle lasted until the skies slowly began to empty. Some birds were killed. Others fled far from Stymphalia, disappearing beyond the mountains of Greece forever. And at last, silence returned to the marshes. Only the sound of wind moving through the reeds remained. For the first time in years, the people living near Lake Stymphalian no longer feared the skies above them. The sixth labor was complete. And still, Hercules' long journey across the world of Greek mythology had only just begun. Hercules' seventh labor was to capture the Cretan Bull, a massive and powerful creature that roamed the island of Crete. Unlike many of the monsters from his earlier labors, the bull was not born from darkness or poison. Its story was tied directly to the gods themselves. According to Greek mythology, the sea god Poseidon had once sent the magnificent white bull to King Minos of Crete as a sign of divine favor. The creature was meant to be sacrificed in Poseidon's honor. But when Minos saw how beautiful and powerful the bull was, he refused to give it up. Instead, he secretly kept the animal for himself and sacrificed a lesser bull in its place. The gods noticed the deception immediately, and as punishment, Poseidon cursed the creature with uncontrollable rage. The once sacred bull became violent and destructive, rampaging across the island of Crete. Fields were destroyed. villages lived in fear, and no hunter or soldier could successfully control the beast. So King Eurystheus ordered Hercules to capture the bull alive and bring it back across the sea to Greece. Another impossible task. Hercules traveled south toward Crete, crossing bright blue waters beneath warm Mediterranean skies. Unlike the dark swamps of Lerna or the frozen mountains of Erymanthus, Crete felt ancient and sunlit. White stone cliffs rose above the sea. Olive groves covered the hillsides, and distant temples overlooked the coastline beneath drifting clouds. But somewhere on the island, the sacred bull still wandered freely. According to the myths, King Minos himself eventually allowed Hercules to hunt the creature, admitting that even his own men could no longer control it. So Hercules climbed into the hills and forests of Crete, searching for the beast. The air was hot beneath the afternoon sun. Dry wind moved through the grasslands, and occasionally Hercules found enormous tracks pressed into the earth where the bull had passed. Then finally, near the edge of a rocky valley overlooking the sea, he saw it. The Cretan bull stood alone beneath the sunlight. Its white hide almost seemed to glow against the cliffs and blue sky around it. Steam rose from its nostrils as it breathed heavily into the warm air. Its horns curved outward like polished ivory. And even standing still, the creature radiated enormous strength. For a moment, Hercules simply watched it. Then the bull lowered its head and charged. The ground trembled beneath its weight. Dust exploded into the air as Hercules barely avoided the creature's horns. Again and again the bull charged across the rocky hillsides, while Hercules pursued it beneath the blazing sun. Unlike the Hydra or the Nemean Lion, this labor became a contest of endurance and control rather than survival alone. The bull was fast, wild, unstoppable, but Hercules slowly wore the creature down, forcing it higher across the cliffs and rough terrain of the island. Finally, after a long struggle, Hercules seized the bull by its horns and wrestled it into submission using his incredible strength. According to the myths, he then carried or guided the massive creature all the way back across the sea to King Eurystheus. The sight terrified the king once again, and after the labor was complete, the bull was eventually released back into the wilds of Greece, where its story would continue in later myths. In fact, this same Cretan bull would eventually become connected to the story of the Minotaur, the infamous creature trapped within the labyrinth of Crete. But that is another story for another night. For Hercules, however, the seventh labor had finally ended. And still, greater dangers waited ahead beyond the shores of Crete. Hercules' eighth labor was to capture the Mares of Diomedes, a group of terrifying horses owned by the Thracian king Diomedes. These were not ordinary war horses. According to the myths, the mares had been trained to feed on human flesh. Their eyes were described as wild and unnatural, and their iron chains echoed across the kingdom wherever they were kept. The horses were feared throughout Thrace, a harsh northern land known in Greek mythology for violence, storms, and warlike kings. Travelers vanished along the roads near Diomedes' kingdom. Few dared to approach the stables where the mares were imprisoned. And King Eurystheus, once again hoping Hercules would fail, ordered him to bring the creatures back alive. So Hercules traveled north toward the cold coastal lands of Thrace. The skies there were darker than the bright hills of Greece. Strong sea winds swept across the cliffs and grasslands, and black waves crashed endlessly against the rocky shores. According to the stories, the kingdom of Diomedes felt wild and dangerous long before Hercules even reached the mares themselves. Smoke rose constantly from distant camps and villages. The sound of metal and horses carried through the wind. and somewhere beyond the cliffs near the sea, the cursed animals waited. Eventually, Hercules arrived at the king's stables during the night. Moonlight reflected across the iron gates surrounding the horses. Inside, the mares moved restlessly in the darkness. Their breathing echoed loudly through the cold air. Some pawed violently against the ground, while others pulled hard against their chains. Even from a distance, Hercules could sense something unnatural about them. The creatures looked powerful and elegant like ordinary horses, but there was a strange madness in their movements. Their eyes gleamed in the darkness, and the stable itself felt more like a prison than a home for animals. According to the myths, Hercules did not travel entirely alone this time. A small group accompanied him into Thrace to help control the mares once they were captured. But stealing the horses from King Diomedes would never be simple. Before long, Diomedes and his soldiers discovered Hercules near the stables, and a violent battle broke out beneath the storm-dark sky. The sound of swords and shields echoed across the cliffs, while the terrified mares pulled wildly against their chains. Ancient stories describe Diomedes himself as cruel and savage, a king whose violence matched the creatures he controlled, and eventually Hercules defeated him during the battle. Afterward, according to some versions of the myth, the mares finally became calm once their master was gone, almost as if the cruelty that shaped them had disappeared with him. Hercules then secured the horses and led them away from the kingdom of Thrace. The long journey back across Greece was not easy. The mares remained dangerous and unpredictable, their iron chains rattling constantly as they traveled. Villagers watched nervously as Hercules passed through towns and valleys with the cursed horses beside him. But at last, he delivered the mares to King Eurystheus, completing the 8th labor. And once again, Hercules continued onward. Across mountains, forests, and seas. Hercules' 9th labor was to obtain the Belt of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. Unlike the monsters and beasts from his earlier labors, this task brought Hercules into the world of warriors, kingdoms, and powerful human rulers. The Amazons were legendary in Greek mythology. They were described as a nation of fierce female warriors who lived far from the cities of Greece near the edges of the known world. To many Greeks, they seemed almost mythical themselves, independent, powerful, and feared even by kings. Hippolyta, their queen, possessed a magical belt said to have been gifted to her by Ares, the god of war. The belt symbolized her authority and strength as ruler of the Amazons, and King Eurystheus ordered Hercules to bring it back to Greece. Some myths claim the king wanted the belt as a gift for his daughter. Others suggest he simply hoped the Amazons would destroy Hercules before he could return. So Hercules gathered a small crew and sailed across the sea toward the distant lands ruled by Hippolyta. The journey carried them far beyond familiar Greek shores. Cold winds swept across dark waters, while unknown coastlines appeared slowly beneath the morning mist. Eventually, the ships reached the homeland of the Amazons. According to the myths, the warriors of Hippolyta were unlike anyone Hercules had encountered before. They rode horses into battle with incredible skill. Their armor shone beneath the sunlight, and their cities stood strong against the wild landscapes surrounding them. But surprisingly, when Hercules finally met Queen Hippolyta herself, the encounter did not begin with violence. Some versions of the story say Hippolyta listened carefully as Hercules explained the reason for his journey and the punishment forced upon him. And after hearing his story, she agreed willingly to give him the belt. For a brief moment, it seemed the labor might end peacefully, but Greek mythology rarely allows peace to last for long. According to the myths, the goddess Hera once again interfered. Disguising herself among the Amazons, she spread rumors that Hercules had come to kidnap their queen. Panic and anger quickly spread throughout the camp. Warriors armed themselves. Horses thundered across the shoreline. And suddenly, chaos erupted around the ships. Believing he had been betrayed, Hercules prepared for battle. The peaceful meeting collapsed into confusion and violence beneath the storm-dark sky. Ancient storytellers describe the clash as fierce and tragic, with the sounds of shields, arrows, and crashing waves echoing across the coast. Eventually, Hercules succeeded in taking the Belt of Hippolyta and escaping the land of the Amazons. But unlike some of his earlier labors, this victory carried a feeling of sadness with it. Because according to many versions of the myth, the conflict may never have happened at all without Hera's interference. And once again, Hercules continued his journey, burdened not only by violence, but by the strange cruelty of fate surrounding his life. As his ship disappeared across the dark sea beneath the moonlight, the 9th labor was complete, and somewhere beyond the horizon, even stranger trials were still waiting for him. Hercules' 10th labor was to steal the Cattle of Geryon, a task that carried him farther from Greece than ever before. The cattle belonged to Geryon, a monstrous giant said to live at the edge of the known world on the distant island of Erythea. According to Greek mythology, Geryon was unlike any enemy Hercules had faced before. Some stories described him as having 3 bodies joined together at the waist. Others claimed he possessed 3 heads, 3 sets of arms, and unmatched strength in battle. He was feared not only for his appearance, but for the isolation of his kingdom far beyond the western seas. The cattle themselves were legendary. Massive red cattle guarded by the giant shepherd Eurytion and a terrifying 2-headed dog named Orthrus. To reach them, Hercules would need to cross deserts, mountains, and oceans at the edge of the world itself. And once again, King Eurystheus believed the journey would finally destroy him. So Hercules traveled westward across the lands beyond Greece. Weeks became months as he crossed scorching plains beneath endless sunlight. Ancient myths say the heat became so unbearable that Hercules, frustrated and exhausted, aimed an arrow toward the sky itself in anger at the burning sun. Surprisingly, the sun god Helios admired his boldness, and according to the stories, Helios rewarded Hercules with a magical golden cup or vessel capable of carrying him safely across the great western sea. Greek mythology often blurs the line between dreams and reality, and this strange image, Hercules sailing across the ocean inside a golden cup beneath the setting sun, became one of the most surreal moments in all the labors. Eventually, Hercules arrived at Erythea. The island felt distant and almost unreal. Dark cliffs rose above black waves. Cold wind swept across the rocky coastline. And somewhere beyond the hills, the famous red cattle grazed beneath the fading light. But before Hercules could reach them, another creature appeared first. Orthrus, the enormous 2-headed guardian dog, charged toward him from the shadows, its growls echoing across the cliffs. Unlike Cerberus, whom Hercules would face later, Orthrus was smaller but no less deadly. Still, Hercules defeated the creature quickly with his club, before confronting the giant shepherd Eurytion nearby. And finally, the battle with Geryon himself began. According to the myths, the giant emerged wearing shining armor and carrying enormous weapons, his multiple bodies moving together across the battlefield like something unnatural. The fight took place beneath a darkening red sky near the western edge of the world. Ancient storytellers often described the scene almost like the ending of the Earth itself. But despite Geryon's terrifying strength, Hercules eventually defeated him using his poisoned arrows, the same arrows coated long ago with the venom of the Hydra. At last, the cattle belonged to Hercules, but the labor was far from over. He still needed to drive the enormous herd all the way back across the world to Greece. The return journey became an adventure of its own. Some cattle wandered away during storms, others were stolen by thieves or scattered by wild animals. And throughout the long journey, Hera continued attempting to delay Hercules whenever possible. Still, step by step, Hercules guided the legendary red cattle eastward across mountains, rivers, and distant kingdoms, until finally he returned to King Eurystheus. The 10th labor was complete, and now only 2 remained. But the final trials waiting ahead would lead Hercules somewhere no living hero was ever meant to go. Hercules' 11th labor was to retrieve the golden apples of the Hesperides, mysterious fruits said to grant immortality to anyone who possessed them. Unlike many of his earlier labors, this task was surrounded by mystery from the very beginning. No one seemed entirely certain where the Garden of the Hesperides even existed. Some believed it lay far to the west beyond the edge of the world. Others claimed it rested hidden somewhere between the lands of gods and mortals. The garden itself was said to be beautiful beyond imagination. Golden trees shimmered beneath eternal twilight. Sacred rivers flowed quietly through the orchards, and the air carried the stillness of a place untouched by ordinary humans. The apples were deeply important in Greek mythology. According to the stories, they had originally been a wedding gift from Gaia, the earth itself, to Hera when she married Zeus. Hera treasured the apples so greatly that she placed them within the hidden garden under constant protection. The garden was watched by the Hesperides, mysterious nymphs of the evening light. But even they were not its true guardians. Coiled among the trees was Ladon, a massive immortal dragon whose many serpent heads never slept. The creature watched the garden endlessly, ensuring no one could steal the sacred fruit. And somehow, King Eurystheus expected Hercules to retrieve the apples anyway. So Hercules once again traveled far beyond the familiar lands of Greece. The journey carried him across deserts, mountains, forests, and distant kingdoms as he searched for the hidden garden. According to some myths, even the gods themselves spoke in riddles when asked where the Hesperides could be found. Eventually, Hercules learned that only one being truly knew the location of the garden: Atlas, the Titan condemned to stand at the edge of the world forever, holding the heavens upon his shoulders. Ancient Greeks imagined Atlas carrying the weight of the sky itself above the earth. And after a long journey, Hercules finally found him. The Titan stood beneath the endless stars, unmoving beneath the enormous burden resting across his shoulders. Even for Hercules, the sight must have seemed almost impossible. When Hercules explained his labor, Atlas offered him a bargain. If Hercules would temporarily hold up the heavens in his place, Atlas himself would retrieve the apples from the garden. And so Hercules agreed. For the first time in his life, Hercules faced a burden even greater than monsters or kings: the weight of the sky itself. Ancient myths describe the moment almost dreamlike. The world became silent. Stars turned slowly overhead, and Hercules stood beneath the heavens while Atlas disappeared into the distant west. Eventually, Atlas returned carrying the golden apples. The fruits glowed faintly like captured sunlight within his hands, but after tasting freedom from his eternal punishment, Atlas no longer wished to take the sky back. Some versions of the myth say he offered to deliver the apples to Eurystheus himself instead, but Hercules quickly realized the trick. Pretending to agree, he asked Atlas to briefly hold the heavens one last time while he adjusted his cloak. The Titan accepted. and the moment the weight returned to Atlas's shoulders, Hercules picked up the golden apples and departed before the Titan could stop him. According to later myths, these same golden apples would eventually become connected to another famous story, the tale of a golden apple thrown between three goddesses, an event that helped begin the legendary Trojan War. But that is another story for another night. And so Hercules carried the sacred apples back across the world toward Greece. The 11th labor was complete. Only one final task remained, and it would lead him somewhere no living mortal was ever meant to enter. Hercules' 12th and final labor was the most terrifying task he had ever been given. King Eurystheus ordered him to descend into the underworld itself and bring back Cerberus, the monstrous guardian of the dead. Unlike the creatures Hercules had faced before, Cerberus was not simply a beast roaming the earth. It belonged to the realm of Hades, the world beneath the world, the land where mortal souls traveled after death. Ancient Greeks imagined the underworld as a vast shadowed kingdom hidden far below the earth, filled with silent rivers, dark fields, forgotten spirits, and endless stone halls untouched by sunlight. And standing at its gates was Cerberus, the enormous three-headed hound whose purpose was simple: to prevent the dead from escaping, and to ensure no living mortal entered without permission. Many believed the task was impossible. After all, heroes might fight monsters, but no man was meant to walk willingly into the land of the dead. Still, Hercules began the journey. According to the myths, he traveled to one of the sacred entrances to the underworld, hidden deep within caves, far from the cities of Greece. As he descended beneath the earth, the air became colder. The light slowly faded behind him. And eventually, even the sounds of the living world disappeared entirely. Only silence remained. Some stories say Hermes guided Hercules through the underworld, while Athena walked beside him through the darkness. Together, they crossed the river Styx, where the ferryman Charon carried silent souls across the black water. Ancient spirits drifted through the shadows around them. Kings, warriors, ordinary people, all reduced to wandering shades beneath the earth. For perhaps the first time in all his labors, Hercules entered a place where strength alone meant very little. The underworld was ancient, eternal, and far larger than any mortal life. As Hercules moved deeper into the kingdom of Hades, he encountered figures from older myths and forgotten tragedies. Some stories say he saw the spirit of Medusa wandering in darkness. Others claim he met heroes and kings long dead beneath the silent fields of the afterlife. But eventually, at the edge of the great gates of Hades, Hercules found what he had come for: Cerberus. The creature emerged slowly from the shadows, like a living nightmare. 3 enormous heads watched him carefully. Its eyes glowed faintly like embers beneath the darkness. Serpents twisted around its body, while its massive claws scraped against the stone floor of the underworld. Yet despite its terrifying appearance, Cerberus did not attack immediately. The beast simply stood before the gates like part of the underworld itself, ancient, silent, unmoving. According to the myths, Hercules first approached Hades, ruler of the dead, and asked permission to take Cerberus to the world above. Surprisingly, Hades agreed, but only under one condition. Hercules could not use weapons. No sword, no spear, no arrows. If he wished to claim Cerberus, he would need to overcome the creature using only his own strength. And so Hercules stepped forward alone into the darkness. The battle that followed became one of the greatest moments in Greek mythology. Cerberus roared as the cavern shook around them. Its serpent tail lashed violently through the shadows. The 3 heads lunged again and again while Hercules struggled to hold the creature back with his bare hands. But slowly, through endurance and overwhelming strength, Hercules forced the beast into submission, and for the first time ever, Cerberus left the underworld. According to the myths, the sight terrified King Eurystheus more than any labor before it. Some stories even claim the king begged Hercules to return the creature immediately to Hades, which Hercules eventually did. And so the final labor came to an end. After years of monsters, impossible journeys, divine punishments, and endless trials, Hercules had survived them all. But the 12 labors were never simply about defeating beasts. They were about endurance, guilt, punishment, and the struggle to continue living after terrible mistakes. That is part of what made Hercules endure so long in mythology. Not because he was perfect, but because despite everything, he continued forward into the darkness again and again. And so, after completing all 12 labors, Hercules' long journey through the world of Greek mythology finally came to an end. He had crossed frozen mountains, sailed beyond the edge of the known world, battled monsters in dark swamps, and even descended into the underworld itself. But Greek mythology rarely gives its heroes peaceful endings. Even after surviving the 12 labors, Hercules' life remained filled with tragedy. According to the myths, during his journey into the underworld to capture Cerberus, Hercules encountered the spirit of the fallen hero, Meleager. Meleager spoke sadly of his sister, Deianira, fearing she would remain alone and unmarried after his death. Before Hercules departed the realm of the dead, Meleager asked him for one final favor. He begged Hercules to seek out Deianira in the mortal world and marry her. And so, after completing the labors and returning from the underworld, Hercules eventually traveled to the city of Calydon, where he met Deianira for the first time. The two quickly fell in love. But Hercules was not the only suitor seeking her hand in marriage. Achelous, the powerful river god, also wished to marry Deianira. According to Greek mythology, Achelous could transform his shape at will. During his battle with Hercules, he changed into a serpent, and eventually into a massive bull, but Hercules defeated him through sheer strength, even breaking off one of the bull's horns during the struggle. Afterward, Hercules successfully won Deianira's hand, and for a time, the two traveled together peacefully. But fate once again intervened. While crossing a river during their journey, they encountered a centaur named Nessus, who offered to carry Deianira safely across the water. Instead, Nessus attempted to abduct her. Hercules immediately shot the centaur with one of his poisoned arrows, the same arrows coated long ago with the venom of the Hydra. But as Nessus lay dying, he deceived Deianira. He told her his blood could be used as a kind of love charm, something that would ensure Hercules would always remain faithful to her. Years later, fearing she was losing Hercules' love, Deianira unknowingly spread the poisoned blood across one of his robes. The venom was catastrophic. The moment Hercules put the robe on, the poison began burning through his body with unbearable pain. Nothing could stop it. No medicine, no strength, no weapon. And realizing he was dying, Hercules climbed Mount Oeta and ordered a funeral pyre to be built. As the flames rose around him, the stories say Zeus himself looked down from Olympus. Then, with a great lightning strike, Hercules' mortal half was destroyed within the fire. But his story did not end there. According to Greek mythology, Hercules achieved something very few mortals ever could: apotheosis. He became immortal. His divine soul ascended to Mount Olympus, where he was welcomed among the gods themselves and granted eternal life. Some myths even say he later married Hebe, the goddess of youth. And perhaps that ending explains why the story of Hercules endured for thousands of years afterward. Because ancient Greek mythology rarely gives us perfect heroes. Hercules was powerful, but also flawed, brave, but often tragic. He made terrible mistakes, he suffered greatly, and yet, despite everything, he continued forward, again and again, through monsters, through grief, through darkness. And maybe that is why these stories still survive today. Not because Hercules was perfect, but because he kept going. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the 12 labors of Hercules and the strange, beautiful world of ancient Greek mythology. And wherever you are in the world right now, I hope you can relax, get comfortable, and drift peacefully off to sleep. Good night.